Okay, I want you to try a little thought experiment with me. Let's just say we have a time machine. We grab you, current you, listening right now, and we zap you back, I don't know, 30,000 years.
Okay, I'm with you, setting the scene.
Your DNA is exactly the same. Same body, same brain structure. But you're not born in a hospital. You pop out in a cave, you're looking at a campfire. Your family is this small hunter-gatherer tribe.
So, biologically, I'm the exact same person. The hardware is
The
identical.
hardware is identical.
Yeah.
But here's the big question. Would you still be you? I mean, would you have your personality, your sense of humor, your beliefs about what's right and what's wrong?
My first instinct is to say, yeah, it'd be me, just a lot dirtier and probably hungrier.
Mm-hmm.
But the material we're digging into today suggests the answer is a hard no. A definitive no.
A hard no. You wouldn't be a modern person just, cosplaying as a caveman. You'd be a fundamentally different conscious being. And that idea, that startling idea, is really the jumping off point for today's deep dive. We're exploring the work of neuroscientist Dr. David Eagleman and this concept he calls live wiring.
Live wiring. It's such a great term, isn't it? It really separates us from almost every other animal out there.
It really does. And honestly, going through this, it kind of flips everything you think you know about being human on its head. I always pictured the brain as this supercomputer that you just turned on.
boot it up and run the software.
Exactly. But Eagleman argues it's not a computer at all. It's more like a jungle, a competitive ecosystem inside your skull.
That's a much, much better way to think about it. A computer has fixed circuits, right? But a jungle implies competition and growth and survival of the fittest. And it all kicks off with this idea that humans are born, as he puts it, half-baked.
Half-baked, which, I mean, it sounds like an insult. If I called you half-baked, you wouldn't be too happy about it.
I might not know, but in a biological sense, it is our absolute superpower. And you can see why when you look at the other options. Take a calf, for instance, or an alligator. A calf is born, hits the ground, and within, 40 minutes?
Even less sometimes.
Right. In under an hour, it's standing, it's walking. It knows how to be a cow almost instantly.
Or the alligator, yeah, it hatches and it's like swim, bite, roll, done.
Exactly. That's hard wiring. The software is pre-installed, but the trade-off there is flexibility. An alligator is a genius at being an alligator in a swamp. But if you put it on a snowy mountain, it's got nothing. It can't update its code.
Whereas humans,
Yeah.
well, we're born completely useless. I mean, from a survival standpoint, human babies are just embarrassing. Can't hold our own heads up, can't see straight. We just sort of lie there and wait for help.
We are totally helpless, but that helplessness is actually a strategy. Because we arrive unfinished, we're inviting the world to finish the job for us. We're not born with a preset manual for a specific environment. The brain arrives and basically asks, okay, what's the deal with this particular place?
So we're downloading the operating system from our surroundings.
Precisely. We don't get a finished house. We get a pile of lumber and some tools. And all of this happens through plasticity.
Okay, let's pause on the word plasticity, because I think people hear it and they just think, oh, the brain can change. But Eagleman's description is so much more vivid. He says to think of the neurons, all 86 billion of them, not as wires, but as little creatures.
It's a wild image, isn't it? These little things are constantly crawling around, plugging and unplugging from each other, hunting for signals. If two neurons fire at the same time, they strengthen their connection. If they don't, that connection just withers and dies. It's a brutal use it or lose it system.
And this all leads to what has to be my favorite scientific theory name ever, the Mr. Potato Head theory of the brain.
It's fantastic branding. And the core idea is that the cortex, that big, wrinkly outer part of the brain, is basically a one-trick pony.
See, this is the part that I found so surprising. We're taught in school, this part in the back is for vision, this part on the side is for hearing. Like, they're different departments.
And we map them that way, sure. But Eagleman's point is, if you slice a piece of the visual cortex and a piece of the auditory cortex and look at them under a microscope,
Yeah.
they're identical. Same 6 layers of cells. Same computational algorithm.
So the brain tissue itself has no idea if it's processing light or sound.
Not a clue. It's general-purpose computational stuff. The only reason the back of your head sees is because that's where the cables from your eyes happen to plug in. If you could, rewire it and plug your ears in back there, it would learn to process sound.
So it's basically just a USB port.
It is, and that's the Mr. Potato Head model. Evolution didn't have to keep inventing new kinds of brains. It just invented new peripherals, a new eyeball, a new eardrum, and plugged them into the same old motherboard. The brain just goes, oh, new data stream. Cool. I can work with this.
And this isn't just a theory. They talked about some really wild tech that proves this. That tongue camera blew my mind.
That's the work of Paul Bacurita. He built this thing called the brain port for people who are blind. You wear a camera on a pair of glasses, and the video feed goes to this little grid of electrodes that you put on your tongue.
Which just sounds awful, by the way.
It's definitely strange. So if the camera sees, say, a vertical line, you feel a vertical line of little zaps on your tongue. The feeling is apparently like Pop Rocks candy.
Okay, so you have candy fizzing on your tongue. How in the world does that become sight?
Well, at first it doesn't. It's just a bizarre sensation. But then the person starts moving around. They look up, the pattern on the tongue shifts, they walk toward a door, the pattern gets bigger, and the brain starts noticing the correlations. It's figuring out, when I move my body like this, the tongue data does that.
It's finding the signal in the noise.
And then, this is the incredible part. After a while, the person stops feeling their tongue. The experience itself, their perception, moves out into the world. They start seeing. They can walk through obstacle courses. They can throw a ball into a hoop. They are having a visual experience through their taste buds.
Because the brain doesn't care. It's locked in the dark, silent vault of your skull. It never sees light. It only ever sees electrical signals.
Spikes in the dark. That's the phrase he uses. And whether those spikes come from your eyes or a grid on your tongue, if the data corresponds to what's happening in the world, the brain will build a reality out of it.
This just opens up so many possibilities, right?
Mm-hmm.
They mentioned that wristband, neosensory, that lets deaf people hear through their skin.
Yeah.
But you could use it for stuff humans can't normally sense.
Oh, absolutely. That's the next step. You could feed it stock market data, or infrared light, or magnetic north. And after a while, you wouldn't be reading the data. You would just know. You would feel which way is north. You'd develop a sixth sense for it.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
But it also kind of points to a downside of all this plasticity.
Right.
Because if the brain is constantly rewiring based on input, what happens if you turn the input off?
Then you get a turf war. We said the brain is a competitive jungle, right? Real estate is everything. And if a piece of that real estate goes quiet, the neighbors will invade.
Squatters' rights.
Aggressive squatters, yeah. And it happens shockingly fast. They did this study where they blindfolded people with normal sight, just total darkness. And within 60 to 90 minutes, their touch processing areas started taking over their visual cortex.
Hold on. 90 minutes, not 90 days.
Minutes. The second the visual cortex went offline, the touch system was like, hey, free real estate, I'll take it.
That is just, it's terrifyingly efficient. It's like you go to get a coffee, and when you come back, your coworker has already set up their computer on your desk.
It is. And this brings us to maybe the most fascinating idea from the whole deep dive, the reason we dream.
Right, the defensive activation theory. I always heard dreams are about, processing emotions or memories or something. But Eagleman says it's basically a defensive strategy.
Well, think about the evolutionary problem. Our planet spins. That meant for millions of years, about 12 hours of every day were spent in total darkness. And in the dark, you can't see anything. Your visual cortex is getting zero input.
But you can still hear. You can still feel.
Exactly. So every single night for 12 hours, your auditory and tactile systems are working away. And they're looking over at this huge, silent visual cortex and thinking, I could use that space. Without some kind of defense, you'd wake up every morning a little less able to see and a little more able to hear.
So dreaming is the visual cortex just putting up a keep out sign.
It's more active than that. It's the brain generating its own data. It blasts these random hallucinatory images into the visual cortex just to keep the neurons firing. It's basically shouting, I'm still using this, go away.
So the dream itself, the story, doesn't matter, is just a biological screensaver.
The content is probably just noise coming up from the brainstem. The function of it is to defend territory. And the evidence he presents is amazing. He looked at dozens of primate species, and there's a direct link. The more plastic an animal's brain is, the more REM sleep it has.
Because a plastic brain is more vulnerable to a hostile takeover.
Precisely. Now, think back to the calf or the giraffe. They're hardwired. Their brains are rigid. Their visual system isn't going to get invaded by their auditory system. And what do you know? They have almost zero REM sleep. They don't need to dream to defend territory that isn't under threat.
That makes so much sense. It kind of demystifies dreaming, but in a really cool, logical way.
Oh,
Okay, speaking of the brain playing tricks, let's talk about time.
the slow motion effect.
We've all had it happen, right?
Yeah.
You get in a near-miss car accident or you slip on some ice and everything just slows down. I always just assumed my brain was actually speeding up, like a high-speed camera.
That's the common sense idea. So Eagleman, being Eagleman, decided to test it. And he did that by dropping people 150 feet into a net.
I saw a video of this thing. It's called an SCAD dive. They just drop you
Yeah.
backwards into a net. No rope.
Utterly terrifying. And while they were falling, he had them wear this special watch, a perceptual chronometer, that flashes numbers way too fast to read normally.
And the idea was if your brain really is Neo from the Matrix and it speeds up, you should be able to read the numbers while you're falling.
Exactly. So he dropped them, they screamed, they hit the net, and he asked them, what were the numbers?
Yeah.
Couldn't read them. Not at all. Their processing speed was exactly the same as it was on the ground. There is no slow motion camera in your head.
But, and this is the key part, they all said the fall felt like it took way longer than it really did.
Right. On average, they thought the fall lasted about 30% longer. So what's going on? It's not about perception. It's about memory.
It's a filing issue.
Totally. In a scary situation, your amygdala, the brain's alarm system, just starts screaming, record everything! This is important! So you lay down this incredibly dense, rich memory of the event.
So normally my brain is recording in standard definition, but in that moment, it switches to 4K ultra high def.
That's a great way to put it. So later, when the danger is over and you play back the tape, your brain looks at all this dense footage and concludes, wow, there is so much detail here. This must have taken a long time. The time distortion is a trick of the playback, not the recording.
And this explains why, as a kid, summers felt like an eternity, but now a whole year can just vanish.
It's the exact same principle. When you're a kid, everything is new. The first time you ride a bike, your first trip to the beach, your brain is writing down tons of new code. It's all high-density memory.
But now my commute is the same, my lunch is the same, my office is the same.
And your brain, being efficient, just says, yep, seen this before, no need to record. It goes on autopilot. So you get to Friday, you look back, and there's almost no new footage on the tape. So your brain just assumes it must have been a really short week.
That's kind of the neurological definition of a rut. But the good news is we can hack this, right? We can actually slow down time.
You can. But you have to actively fight that efficiency. You have to seek out novelty.
So just take a different route home from work.
Take a different route home. Rearrange the furniture in your office. Try brushing your teeth with your other hand. Anything that forces your brain out of autopilot and makes it write new memories will subjectively extend your experience of time.
So being live-wired means you have to keep live-wiring. If you stop, time speeds up.
Exactly. In a way, comfort is the enemy of a long life, subjectively speaking.
I like that. Comfort is the enemy. Okay, let's switch gears to another internal fight. The battle between present you and future you.
Ah, yes. The one who wants the cupcake versus the one who wants to be fit.
Eagleman calls this the Ulysses Contract, which I love. We're bringing in the Greek myths.
And it's a perfect fit. Ulysses wants to hear the sirens sing, but he knows their song is so beautiful it makes sailors crash their ships on the rocks. He knows his future self will be weak, so what does he do? He has his crew tie him to the mast.
He binds his future self.
He restricts his own freedom ahead of time while he's still rational, so that when he inevitably becomes irrational, he can't screw things up.
We all do this in small ways, right? Like, I just don't buy ice cream. Not because I don't want it, but because I know that 10 p.m. me is going to eat the entire pint.
That is a perfect Ulysses contract, but he shared some really extreme examples.
The credit card and the block of ice.
Yes. This woman had an impulse spending problem, so she would literally put her credit card in a Tupperware container, fill it with water, and stick it in the freezer.
It's genius. So you're online, you see something you want to buy, you have to go to the freezer, get out this brick of ice, and then just wait.
And by the time the ice melts, the rational brain has taken over again. The impulse is gone. She used physics to beat her own psychology.
The one that really got me, though, I actually gasped when I heard it, was the smoker.
Oh, the check. Yes, this is taking it to another level. A woman wanted to quit smoking, so she wrote a check for $5,000, a huge amount of money for her.
And she made it out to
The KKK.
the Ku Klux Klan.
Wow. She gave the check to her friend and said, the second you see me with a cigarette, you mail this check.
That is just.
Hmm.
It's playing with nuclear weapons.
Yeah.
But the logic is sound. It's not just that you lose the money, it's the absolute moral horror of your money going to a group you despise.
Precisely. She created a consequence so awful, so repulsive, that it was stronger than her addiction. And it worked. She never smoked again.
And this brings us to the last and maybe the most important part of this whole thing. She used an out-group to control her own behavior.
Yeah.
But that same us versus them wiring is, well, it's at the root of our worst impulses as a species.
It is. Our brains are fundamentally social, but they're selective about it. They ran this fMRI study about
The
empathy.
one with the hand getting stabbed.
That's the one. They show you a video of a hand getting poked with a needle, and when you watch it, a part of your brain called the pain matrix lights up. You feel a shadow of that pain. That's empathy.
It's automatic. You see someone get hurt, you feel a little bit of it.
Normally. But then they added one little piece of information. They put a label on the screen next to the hand. Christian, Jewish, atheist.
And the brain checks the label before it decides whether to care.
Tragically, yes. If the hand belonged to someone in your in-group, your empathy response was strong. But if the label showed an out-group, a rival religion, or even a rival sports team, the empathy response just plummeted.
So empathy isn't this constant universal thing. It's a switch. And a single word can turn it off.
It's a gated mechanism. And this, Eagleman argues, is how propaganda works. It's the neurological basis for genocide. You don't get ordinary people to commit atrocities by just telling them to. First, you have to recategorize their neighbors.
You call them rats.
Yeah.
Or cockroaches. You dehumanize them.
You dehumanize them. You move them from the person box into the object box in your brain. And once that happens, the pain matrix doesn't fire anymore. You've turned off the empathy.
That's horrifying. It shows how dangerous rhetoric really is. It's not just words. It's literally a tool for rewiring people's brains to shut down their humanity. So what's the solution? How do we fight that?
He suggests something called complexification.
Complexification.
It just means you have to destroy the simple labels. If I only know you as a supporter of the other political party, you're my enemy. My empathy switch is off. But if I find out that you also love the same kind of music I do, and you have a dog, and your kid goes to the same school as mine,
Then I can't just shove you into the enemy box anymore. You don't fit.
exactly. You've created these cross-cutting identities, the wiring gets messy. We're an out-group on politics, but an in-group on dogs and music. And the brain can't just flip the switch to off anymore.
So we have to intentionally make our relationships more complex. We have to find common ground, not just to be nice, but to literally keep our own empathy circuits online.
You have to build a more complicated picture of people to fight the brain's lazy desire to just sort everyone into simple piles.
Man, we've covered so much ground. We started 30,000 years ago realizing we're all products of our environment because our brains are live-wired. We learned we're half-baked, and that lets us plug new senses into our Mr. Potato Head brain.
We found out that dreams are a nightly turf war inside our skulls, that the flow of time is a trick of memory.
That we can bind our future selves like Ulysses. And finally, that our empathy is fragile, and we have to actively work to protect it.
It all comes back to that central idea, doesn't it? We are not static. We are constantly in a state of becoming, shaped by everything we do and see.
It's incredibly empowering, actually. We're not just stuck with the brain we have.
We can be the pilots, not the passengers. But you have to understand the machine. Once you understand why you have an impulse or why you feel a certain way about an outgroup, you gain the power to override it.
So I'll leave you with one final thought. We talked about how your sense of sight is just your brain's best guess about what a bunch of electrical signals mean. And we talked about how your sense of empathy is a switch that can be flipped by a single word.
It's all a construction.
So if your physical reality and your moral reality are just temporary configurations of your internal wiring, how much of what you believe to be solid, objective truth right now is just a setting that could be changed by your next experience?
That's the question.
Thanks for diving deep with us. We'll see you on the next one.